everybody. My name is Lauren, and this is my husband, Ben. To know our story, you need to know us from the beginning. Ben and I had a totally different upbringing, but it led us to where we are today. I grew up in a home where my parents were happily married, and you could say things went pretty smoothly on the home front. I grew up in a Catholic home where I was expected to attend and be a practicing Catholic. I attended church every Sunday and Wednesday. I knew that I believed in God, but I did not know what that meant for me or how it was supposed to shape me as a person. As time went on, church started to become less of a priority due to my family's busy schedule. We went from being a devout family who attended every Sunday and Wednesday to being an Easter and Christmas family. Although I had a stable home life with two parents who had a great marriage, I always struggled with anxiety for reasons I still do not completely understand. I remember as a child, I would frequently worry about things I thought everyone in my family dealt with effortlessly, which made my anxiety worse. I felt isolated because of this and did not understand how to express these feelings.
When I was born, my parents were already separated. They were divorced by the time I was 1. I would spend the next 10 years of my life going to visit a man I didn't really know every couple of weeks in Atlanta. As a kid, my priorities were playing recreational sports on the weekends, which often conflicted with my visitation time with my father. Often when these conflicts happened, I had to miss my games because my dad was not willing to compromise or reschedule. He used my activities and interests as opportunities to try to maintain control over my mother and their divorce and to try to micromanage my life without ever really being present. On the rare occasion he would make the trip to come to a game, which happened about once a year, he would make it out to seem like he was making a big sacrifice to be there, but would make me feel guilty about it. When I was a child, I was blessed to have 2 male role models, my grandfather and my best friend's dads, who were examples of what it really means to be there for your children. I remember once when I was riding in the car with my best friend and his dad, I was venting about my dad, and he gave me some wisdom that I will never forget. He told me that when he was a kid, he had issues with his father as well. He told me it's frustrating right now to feel like you have no control, but all you can do is do it different when it's your time to be a husband and a father. These words gave me hope that I have a choice to be my own person, and I'm not fated to repeat my father's mistakes. Throughout my childhood, I grew in my resentment towards my father, and when I was around 12, I learned I would be missing yet another event that was important to me. When I brought my request to reschedule to my father, I was answered with an unsurprising no. Except this time, I was done living this scenario where I had a father that wanted to control my life but not be a part of it. As a result, I told him I would no longer be coming to see him, and I didn't see him again until I was in college.
Fast forward to my freshman year of high school, I walked into my art class, and across the room I saw a cute guy in a football jersey. If you couldn't guess, it was Ben. This shy and quiet guy quickly took my heart, and all seemed to be perfect. Ben and I quickly became inseparable. We did everything together, and I was even accepted into his guy group as one of the guys. Ben was my rock through all my ups and downs, and I knew that I could count on him to help me through my tough times. As I reached my later high school years, I began to feel like my anxiety was taking over. I would worry about things like being accepted by others and needing to feel prepared for every possible outcome in every situation. My anxiety would catch me in a trap that drove itself forward, and having moments of anxiousness would lead to further anxiety. I was worried that I came across as emotional or dramatic, or that my anxiety was driving a wedge between Ben and I. I could never find the words to express the reasons behind it. The more I tried to solve it on my own, the harder it would get. When I brought my anxiousness to Ben, he treated me with patience and reassurance. I knew this was not a feeling Ben understood himself, but he would always listen and never judge me for having those emotions. I knew that Ben would always be there for me no matter what, and continued to do that to this day.
Shortly after I stopped seeing my father, my mom remarried. They would ultimately have conflicts in their marriage that would lead to them separating my sophomore year of college and divorcing a few years after that. My relationship with my stepdad initially started off good, but as I grew into my teenage years, some of the secrets he withheld going into their marriage came out, and his personality changed. He and my mother argued frequently, and I quickly lost my respect for him. He would use phrases like he was the man of the house, but my mother was the only one working, and he expected her to do the cooking and cleaning when she got home, even though he was unemployed at the time and home all day. I did my best to take up my share of household responsibilities to help my mom, but would deliberately disobey my stepfather if he asked me to complete a chore just to make sure he knew I did not respect him. I understood he was dealing with his own struggle with unemployment, but a real man of the house would step up and help his wife. I was angry because she was already a single mom before him, and her marriage to him should have given her somebody to rely on, but instead she gained another aspect of her life that she had to manage. This led to many arguments between him and I. My home life was tension-filled when I was a teenager. Eventually, you could find me almost anywhere but at home. About this time, I found out there was this girl in one of my classes who was interested in me. We began talking and started dating when I was 16. We quickly fell head over heels for each other. She was literally the nicest person I'd ever met in my life, and she loved me. She loved me despite knowing that I came from a broken home and had been hurt. We dated through high school, and everything was great. We were separated by a grade in school. When the time came for me to go to college, I did something stupid. I broke up with Lauren. A life of flawed logic had gotten the better of me. My thoughts were that I was eventually going to break her heart anyway, so I might as well do it now. After about a month away, I realized my mistake. And more than that, I realized I was sabotaging myself and hurting the person that I loved. So I confessed to her that I did not break up with her because I did not love her, but because I thought that breaking up with her then would save her from a worse heartbreak later. I admitted I was wrong, and I promised her we could make a long-distance relationship work. She forgave me, and we got back together. We overcame a long-distance relationship twice, once my freshman year of college and once her senior year of college.
As I started college, I started to find my confidence. I felt as though my anxiety became less of an everyday occurrence, but I still felt like I was missing a piece to help me whenever it happened. It wasn't until Ben and I were engaged that I truly started going back to church on a regular basis. I initially started going because it allowed me to spend more time with Ben, and I thought it would make his mom happy. My reasoning soon changed. I would walk into church each Sunday and felt like the sermon was written just for me. This drew me to keep attending. I didn't realize how much my anxiety had gotten the better of me for most of my life until I walked into our pastor, Talbot's office for our first premarital counseling. The first thing Talbot asked me was, "Are you feeling anxious about today?" I literally lost it right there, sitting on the couch in his office. As I sobbed, Talbot handed me a pen and paper and told me to look up Philippians 4:6-7. The verses read, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and mind in Jesus Christ." After leaving that meeting, I literally wrote those verses everywhere, on my mirrors, on sticky notes, in my car, anywhere else I could, just to have the continuous reminder of those words. To say it helped me would be an understatement. It may have not taken all my anxiety away, but I know now where to turn when I need to hear the truth of the word. Those words reminded me that God was still there for me in my anxious times. Now, instead of being trapped by anxiety was now leading me into prayer, and in prayer I could find peace. My relationship with Ben grew stronger because I wasn't placing expectations on him to ease my anxiety, but I was bringing my problems to God. I now feel a freedom from my thoughts that I had never felt before.
After I graduated college, she was still in school. I began thinking about proposing. I was broke, couldn't find a job, and was aimless in finding my purpose in life, but I knew I wanted to be with her. These thoughts of getting married and eventually having kids made me think about the kind of man I wanted to be. Despite growing up in church, I was not a Christian at this point in my life. Around this time, our pastor Talbot invited me to join a young adult life group. I realized that God was pursuing me. Thanks to that group, I was able to gain greater understanding. My answers came through conversations that made me realize believing in Jesus was believing in history and things that happen. There were also studies we did that were written by an author named Sandra Richter. These topics she covered linked concepts in the Old Testament, and she brought them full circle with Jesus' sacrifice on the cross. This connection led me to the conclusion that the Bible is inspired, eternal, and true. I was in a group of people who were searching for their own growth, but brought their own doubts. We shared discussions of our understanding of Scripture and our understanding of the lives we were living. The results were that we grew as a group. Things became clear for me, and I knew that if I was going to be the kind of man I wanted to be, I would need God's help. I accepted Jesus Christ in my life and was able to bring that into my marriage. Lauren and I were married on November 4th, 2017. After having been together for 8 years at this point, Lauren and I were overcome with joy to be able to spend the rest of our lives with each other and have all our problems go away. Obviously, this is not what happened. Having Christ in our marriage was crucial as we started our married life. As mentioned earlier, I had trouble finding a job out of college. I had piled up student loan debt and was incredibly frustrated because my only hope at any job prospects was to go back to school. Our first 2 years of marriage, I was in school Monday to Friday and worked 12-hour shifts on Saturday and Sunday. In attempts to maintain some sort of control over my student loan debt, Lauren and I started off our marriage living in my mom's house. My personal growth in faith had taken me from a non-believer to a Christian, and now to a Christian who was starting to question God's plan for my life. On a rare Sunday, I was able to attend church because of my school and work schedule. I heard the words of Proverbs chapter 3, verses 5 and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. When I heard this, I realized that the obstacles I have had and the ones Lauren and I were facing together, God was using to build our faith. We had grown from high school sweethearts who delighted so much in each other to married young adults who were delighting in the Lord. Our marriage, based in faith, formed a bond between the two of us that was much stronger than the bond that was formed from our initial desires for each other alone. After 2 years of marriage, I finished my program and started working as a nurse in March of 2020. Lauren and I got our own place in June of 2021.
As we approached our wedding, we soon realized that with Ben going back to school, we would not be able to buy our first home like we had planned. I always envisioned that we would get married, buy a house, and have kids. I was so excited to see Ben feel a purpose and go after his dreams, but I felt like my dreams were fading away. Ben's mom graciously let me move in with her and Ben as soon as we got married. I knew this was our best option during this transition in our lives, but it was not an easy transition for me. Though Ben and I were happy newlyweds and so thrilled to start our life together, I struggled mentally with what I thought our first year of marriage would look like versus what was happening. Ben and his mom went out of their way to make me feel at home, but for a while, I just felt like I was living in someone else's home. I knew we were where we needed to be, but I still felt like we were missing out on our first that other couples have in their first year. The more time the three of us lived together, I realized that Ben's mom was not just helping us, but we helped her as well. As I look back on the 3 years that we lived together with his mom, I can honestly say that we still had many firsts that may not have been my plan, but were God's plan. We both have continued to grow in our faith. Every obstacle we have faced has led us to where we are. God has taken us on a journey in both of our lives as individuals and in our life as a married couple. The next step of our journey will be happening soon, as we will be expecting our first baby this July.
I'm grateful for the love for my wife, who has loved me from the beginning. She has always supported me and believed in me becoming the person that I want to be, and I'm proud of the confidence she has gained in herself. God has worked in me to show me that I am not flawed because of poor examples of husbands and fathers I saw growing up, but that I can be a great husband and father because of the Father I have in him.
Thank you.